Hello, everyone. Just a friendly reminder that you can watch the podcast live and interact with us and other chatters on twitch.tv/convictedtoast. Enjoy the podcast.
You lack conviction. Anyway,
But, but I'm convicted toast. You can't make that up.
you may be convicted toast, but you lack conviction.
Okay, fair enough.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the 7th episode of the Mixed Media Podcast. I am Mr. Rager. This is Mr. Toast. As always, this is kind of a lightning in a bottle, kind of throwing this out episode. We weren't really sure what we wanted to do tonight. We were going to do a Breaking Bad retrospective and a Better Call Saul retrospective, but we want to spend some more time on that and make that a really good show for you guys instead of just kind of winging it. So,
Yeah.
what better to wing than our top 10 movies of all time?
Yep. We postponed the podcast from Sunday, and we're like, we'll do it on Wednesday. And then at like 6 o'clock tonight, I texted Mike and I was like, "Hey, podcast?" And he's like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah, that happened. Wait, what is up, dog? I don't know what that is.
What do you mean? You don't know that one?
No, I do. I was just
Okay.
feeding into the joke.
Okay.
Oh, not much. Just chilling.
There you go.
So we've got our top 10. We're gonna spend a little bit of time. This isn't gonna be our longest episode ever, but we're gonna spend a little bit of time with each one. Try to work through it.
And we don't know what's on each other's list. So we might have some crossover. I imagine definitely closer to our top like 4 or 5 position. We'll see some crossover. We'll see though. But anyway, would you like to start with your number 10?
I would not because I accidentally deleted it, so you're gonna have to go first.
You deleted your number 10?
I deleted the top 10.
Oh no.
It's
All
alright.
right. You gonna wing
You
it?
go ahead. I know my top 10.
Okay.
We're good.
All right. So for my number 10 position, I have The Departed.
Oh, okay, very nice. I have that one number 3.
Okay. It was really hard. I was sitting there, and the way that I kind of made my list was movies that like I can throw on at any time and just sit down and enjoy a movie. And The Departed's definitely up there for me, but it wasn't quite number 1. Or like it wasn't quite like breaking more than 10. So
Yeah, mine's a lot lower than yours. I have a lot of love for The Departed. It's just such a great movie. I remember my dad showing it to me when I was younger, and I just absolutely ate that shit up. I love The Departed. To this day, I still do. It's just such a great movie, and it's very comedic, which is weird, especially because it's a remake of a much more serious film.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just it's so good.
Yeah, plus such a star-studded cast for 2006 as well. Especially just like there's just so many major actors that all appear within the first 10 minutes of the movie, and they stay throughout the entire thing. It's not just like, oh, here's a little cameo. No, they're all in this movie. And just a fantastic story. And if you haven't had the chance to see it yourself yet, you definitely need to get on that for sure.
Yeah, it is beyond excellent. So we know my number 3, so we won't have to do mine. I'll
Yeah.
just like remind us of it when I get to it.
Okay.
Um, my number 10 is Fantastic Mr. Fox. It is the only animated movie that scratches my top 30. It's really, really far in there. Fantastic Mr. Fox is just such a great time. I saw it on my 8th birthday in 2009 for the first time when it came out in the theater, and it is just it's so funny, and George Clooney and Meryl Streep are so good, and Bill Murray, they all do such great jobs, and I love the stop motion animation. I absolutely love the art style of the film. It's just so good. It's one of my comfort movies. It's
Yeah,
such an excellent
I've
movie.
actually never seen it. I've seen clips from the movie, but I've never actually just watched the entire thing.
It's very dry. Like a lot of the humor is very, very like dry humor, very like I don't know
Yeah.
how to explain it other than dry.
That's that Paul Thomas Anderson or is that
Wes Anderson,
Wes
the
Anderson?
other one.
The other
Yeah, the other
Anderson.
Anderson.
Yeah.
There is a Paul Thomas Anderson movie on my list.
Okay.
We'll get to it.
Yeah, but I've actually wanted to see Fantastic Mr. Fox for a long time. It was actually one of the movies that I remember like seeing like trailers for on like TV when I was a kid, and I was like, I want to see that, and I never got the chance to.
It's such a good time. I do. The cast is like George Clooney plays Mr. Fox, Bill Murray's Badger, Owen Wilson is Coach Skip, Willem Dafoe plays a psychotic rat.
I remember Willem Dafoe from that. So
Yeah, it's it's so good. The cast is just so good, and
yep.
the animation is I love it. All right, Mr. Toast, what do you got for
I
number
I
9?
don't think you'd expect this to be on my top 10 list. I'm gonna be completely honest.
Oh,
Whiplash.
oh no, I would.
Okay.
That's such a great movie.
I don't
No,
know. I don't
it,
know, like, because I don't know how many people are just like, yeah, I love Whiplash. You know, I mean, there is definitely a group of people, but I feel like there's also people that have no idea what Whiplash is and have never heard of it.
I love Whiplash. It's not in my top like 30, but it's up there for me. I'd say it's probably top 50. It is such a great movie, and
Yeah.
there's so many lines I want to quote to you, but I have several of them I
Uh,
can't say.
yeah. For monetization purposes, we cannot say that.
No, we can't. I think the best one that I can quote is when he looks over at him and he goes, "Get out of my sight, or I will fucking destroy you." That is
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah, I also love the when he's like going into that, he's like holding up the thing. He's like, if I see one more of these things, I'm going to. I don't even remember what he says, but it's so funny. There's a reason that that movie's been memed so much in recent years.
Oh yeah,
Um,
it's really good.
Phenomenal acting as well. J.K. Simmons as this like perfectionist like art music teacher is just it's great.
It is the only movie I like that Miles Teller is in.
Yeah.
There isn't another movie of his that I like. I was trying to think, like War Dogs is it's okay. Fantastic Four, and I'm not a big fan of Top Gun Maverick.
Um,
Uh,
I I don't know. I liked War Dogs a little bit. It wasn't great though.
yeah, that's it. Like movies that I would consider great, like J.K. Simmons, he has a few that he's in
Yeah,
that I would be like, that is amazing. But like when I'm looking at Miles Teller's work, I'm just like, Whiplash is his best movie.
yeah, and
It
it's
most definitely is.
my favorite thing is watching a movie with somebody, and you know how when like that's one of those movies where you have the ending that you know it's up to interpretation. I remember
Yes.
watching it the first time with somebody, and like I like it ended, and I was like, oh my god, I love that. And then the person I was watching with goes, I don't get it. I was just like, okay.
Oh,
it's
there's one on my
it's
top 10
so
list that I have that moment too.
yeah. It's
Oh,
frustrating, but at the same time, you're just like it's up for like interpretation, and that's the thing I like about a lot of the directors that we have from movies that we're going to be talking about tonight. They're the type of directors where they go, here's the movie, here's the ending, here's like, or they'll be like, here's some plot points, and they're not going to elaborate. They're just going to be like, here's a plot point or an ending that you can interpret whatever you want from it.
I tried to do what you did with mine as well, where I took movies that were more rewatchable than great movies, because if I was just doing like some of the best things I've ever seen in my life, there'd be some really weird shit on here that I've only seen once or twice.
Yeah,
But I wanted to keep it to like more, not even, I'm not gonna say modern because some of mine are older, but more mainstreamy stuff that like I could just turn on at any time and just be invested completely.
I agree.
I guess it's my number 9.
Yep.
Number 9 large. Number 6. All right. Anyway, Call Me by Your Name is my number 9. Call Me by Your Name is the greatest romance film I've ever seen. I don't think there will ever be a movie that makes me feel the way that that movie does. Um, it completely took me by surprise. I had no expectation for it at all. I was up late one night, couldn't sleep. This was a couple years ago now. Looked on my Vudu with all the movies owned digitally, and I saw I had bought Call Me by Your Name physically at one point just because there was a lot of Oscar buzz around it and whatnot. and I was like, "Yeah, screw it," and I put it on, and it had me for the entire 2 hours. I was gonna go to bed and, like, finish it the next day. I was up for the entire movie. I cried like a baby. It's one of the best romance films I've ever seen. It's one of the best coming of age films I've ever seen as well. It takes place over a summer in Italy in 1985, so there's a lot of new wave music in there. It's so good. Everything feels so real and so alive. I'm gushing over this movie so much I should have put it lower.
Yeah, I think there's a lot
Um,
of stuff that you there I think we've talked about this movie like 2 times on the podcast before, but every time I feel like it's still worth talking about.
yeah, it's addicting, and it's like the director, Luca Guadagnino, he just knew exactly how to, like, you see peaches, you see water, you could, like, there's a scene where this lake, you see this still lake at night, and you can, like, smell the lake. It's weird to say, but, like, the way he films things and the way he uses sound, I've never seen anything like that. And like I was saying, it takes place in the summer in the 80s, between these two, Elio and Oliver. Oliver is an American college exchange student. He's in his early 20s. He comes to visit. Elio is about to graduate high school. He's 17, on the verge of 18, and they kind of develop this friendship, and then it kind of goes further than that. And I'm going to give a mild spoiler for the movie because it doesn't really affect the plot.
Okay.
The dad in this movie, one of the best movie dads of all time. He gives this speech in the movie when he, like, kind of suspects what's going on between them, and he's like, most parents would want this to go away, want this to, disappear. He's like, I am no such parent. And he gives this, like, whole story that, like, him and his wife don't even have what they have, and, like, his whole life he's been searching for someone that he feels that way about, and
Yeah.
he's come close but never had it. And he's like, to trick yourself into feeling nothing at all, what a waste of your life. And that speech is
Ooh.
so good. Yeah, it's, oh my god, it's such a phenomenal movie. I'll have
Yeah.
to make you watch it sometime. It's so good.
Yep. Because we did watch a YouTube video. There's I can't remember the channel name, but he always does the art of, and then
Oh, The Beauty of. That's
yeah,
the name of his
that's it.
channel.
The beauty of it is like he's done so many different ones. One of my favorites still to this day is The Beauty of Better Call Saul. But
Um, yeah, he's great. Pause real quick.
yeah,
Huge development. The Criterion Channel, they release, like, classic films. They usually have, like, directors go into their closet and, like, pick out their favorite movies and stuff,
yeah.
and they get to take them with them. Hideo Kojima was on there today.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch that later.
Yeah.
Hideo Kojima was on there. I just saw that and I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, Mike is casually alluding to the fact that there will be a Death Stranding podcast in the near future.
Oh, yes. Yes, very casually just dropping a little hint. There's gonna be a Death Stranding podcast at some point.
Yep.
Would you like to do your number 8?
Yes. This one, I'm certain it's on both of our lists. Goodfellas.
It is number 8.
Yeah.
Mine is number
This was a
2.
tough list for me, so
I got you. Mine was number 2. It shouldn't be that low, but oh, you go first. I've got
okay.
a lot of nostalgia.
So this is what many people would see as Martin Scorsese's like best film. I'm not 100% like, yeah, it's his best film. Like, it's not definitive for me because he's done so many movies, but it's definitely one of his best. Um, I love the way that it's just, you literally live or like witness this person's life for several years, just his time within the mafia, and it's so well done. Also, shout out to Martin Scorsese's mom for actually being in the movie and
His
just playing Martin Scorsese's mom.
his dad is in the movie too.
Yeah, that's right.
They're in Taxi Driver as well.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so good. I have so much nostalgia with Goodfellas. I watched it for the first time when I was 7.
So I
7, I believe.
also have a big thing with Goodfellas. Um, so I'm assuming at one point in time you had cable television.
Oh yeah.
And you were very young. You're probably like 8, 9 years old, maybe 10, and it's really late at night. You're staying up, and you're just flipping through the channels. I ended up finding Goodfellas one night at like 2 a.m. And I was like, I have no idea what this is, but it was at the very beginning of the movie, and I'm like, I watched almost all of it, but I fell asleep halfway, a little bit more than halfway through, and I didn't actually finish watching it several years later. And when I finally did, I loved it.
My dad made me watch Goodfellas when I was 7. He was like talking it up for weeks. He's like, "This movie's so good." He's like, "I don't know if you can watch this." I'm like, "Come on, Dad." And he's like, "Come on, let me watch it with you." And he's like, "Oh, it's my favorite movie of all time." I'm like, Let me watch it with you." And he like talked to my mom, and she's like, "Oh my god, like
Yeah,
it's rated R." And he's like, "Yeah, I know, but it's so good." And she's like, "They say fuck like 400 times." He's like, "It's fine." So we watched it, and I loved it then, and I've loved it every single time I've seen it since then. The amount of detail in the world is just there are so many lines of dialogue, so many things that like he didn't have to do,
yeah.
but he did it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love the bar scene, and I was trying to look up the quote when he's like walking through the bar, and they're like he's like introducing everybody, and I love when he's like, that was, instead of being like, that's Andy, that's this guy, it's like, and that was Sally Balls' brother, Fat
Oh
Andy.
yeah,
That was
and
Jimmy 2 times.
he
He
kind
said
of
he
gives you
got that.
like a brief anecdote about the person.
hmm He's like, that's Jimmy 2 times. He gets that nickname because everything he says it twice. And he
Yep,
gets up, he's like, I'm gonna go get the papers, get the papers. And I'm like, oh my
yep.
God.
I love it so much. I also, it's so quotable. The part with the oh, you're funny, man. It's like, I'm funny, funny how? Funny like a clown? Like I'm here to amuse you?
I love that, and I love the dinner scene where he's like, it's not Christian, Mom. I gotta hack the what do you call it, the paw, the hoof, and De Niro's like the hoof, the hoof, the hoof, and he's like, I love how they do it, like the little details. Like when they're all eating, they're eating noodles. De Niro grabs a bottle of ketchup and just like
Yeah,
dumps that shit on there, and you're like, but he actually looked it up, and the dude he was playing just doused his shit, everything he ate in ketchup. So
yeah.
he was just like, it's so good. The amount of detail in that movie is just
Yeah,
amazing.
I remember hearing about that. Like how he was like, "Hey, how would he like pour the ketchup or whatever?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, he would just pick it up and he'd roll it between his hands and just dump ketchup everywhere."
It's just God, it's so good. The music, the soundtrack for Goodfellas is just so good.
Yeah, they
Um,
would slice the garlic so thin it would disappear in the sauce.
you just liquefy in the pan with a little oil. Hey, Vinny, I thought he used too many onions in the sauce. Vinny, come on, watch it with the onions. I didn't put too many onions, just three small onions. That's all. And he brings the wine. Now we can eat. And like, oh man, I could talk about Goodfellas for two
Yeah,
hours.
yeah,
It's so good. Um, I'll move on to my number 8. I think is what I'm on.
yeah.
My number 8 is a very very weird pick.
Okay,
My number 8 is Return of the Living Dead.
okay. That's one that
I
I only saw it once, and I haven't had the chance to see it a second time.
I love that movie. It's my favorite zombie movie of all time. It is so much fun. It's like this punk rock zombie thing that's like I don't even know how to describe it. There's a character named Trash,
Yep.
played by Linnea Quigley. She just strips in a cemetery and they're all like, "Oh, Trash is taking off her clothes again." You're like, "What? How many times has this happened?"
Yeah, and shout out to both Lincoln and Trent. That's their favorite character.
Oh yeah. Sam
um,
said, "Oh hell yeah for Return of the Living Dead." Yeah, it's so good.
yeah, I enjoyed watching it. I definitely need to watch it again though, because there's a lot that I like missed details wise. I was drinking that night a little bit, but
Oh yeah, I did make you watch it, didn't
yeah,
I?
yep.
We should watch it for Halloween. We could do it for one of our Halloween podcasts. We could incorporate it.
Oh, for sure.
I just love it. I love when it's so quotable. I love when they're in the basement and he's like, "This isn't gonna leak. This is government made." He like smacks it and it just starts leaking the chemical.
Oh yeah. I also really like that they're like the zombies are like incredibly durable. Like you can't kill them.
No, you can't. You literally can't kill them at all.
Because that is the most threatening like zombie apocalypse like in fiction, because they don't go down.
Yeah, it's oh my god, it's so good. Trash is my favorite character too. I love the relationship between the two guys that work at the chemical plant
Yeah.
and or at the mortuary or whatever it is, and all the characters are just so great. The lines just come out of nowhere. I love when they're like running through the halls, surfing dead by the Krampus plant. They're putting the boards on the windows. And he's like, try and call somebody. And the mortician, he picks up the phone and he goes, dead. And he puts the phone down. It's so good. My favorite line of this movie, and me and Lincoln quoted this all the time, is when the boss and the dude are arguing. He goes, "You better watch your tone, boy, if you like this job." He goes, "Like this job." It's so good. All right, Mr. Keegan, you're number 7.
Mad Max Fury Road.
Okay, this is one I have not seen.
Okay. So, there's like, whenever you think about the whole movie as a whole, there really isn't that much going on. You have your big Immortan Joe is what they call him, and he's just like this wastelander that pretty much controls the water. And then you have all these characters are just like, we're gonna get out of here and try and like, get out of here and find our own like place to live, get our own water. That's the simplest part of the setup. But then like, I don't know, it's something that's just so enjoyable about the movie that you can just sit there and watch it. You don't have to really understand what's going on. You know the characters' motivations, but you're mostly there because it's just a fun action movie. And it's one that I can turn on anytime I want to. It's never like what do I watch tonight? And if it's like, I can't really think of anything, just throw Mad Max in and you can literally sit there, have a blast for like an hour and a half, and then go about your day. Fantastic cast too, just to throw that out there. Tom Hardy doesn't really get to do much in the movie as a titular character, but still enjoyable. I like it.
I really need to see it. I want to like do a marathon of like the original trilogy and then go into Fury Road. There's a new one coming out next year, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a spin-off with Furiosa, who was in the in Fury Road.
Let me look because I could check. Yeah, it is. It's called Furiosa, and Chris Hemsworth is playing Immortan Joe.
Oh,
But it looks like Tom Hardy is a cameo.
Okay.
But yeah, it looks pretty good, and it's being directed by George Miller again, which is wild. I know people that are like, people hate on sequels and remakes and shit. People are like, oh, Mad Max Fury Road is just a remake of a better 80s movie. And I'm like, it was made by fucking George Miller.
Yeah.
George Miller made it.
The best thing is about that movie is that George Miller wanted his wife to edit the movie because, and I'm pretty sure his exact words were, because if I had a man do it, it would just be another action movie.
Yep.
And she won an award for best editing.
Yeah, she did a really good job. From some of the scenes that I've seen from it. I mean, it looks great. I need to bite the bullet and watch all 4 of them. My number 7 is Django Unchained.
Ooh, that's my number 1.
Is that your number 1?
It
really?
Is. Yep.
I had it a little bit lower. Django really holds up for me as one of the most rewatchable movies in the top 10. I will say that.
Yeah.
Django is so endlessly rewatchable, so quotable. Again, I can't say half the quotes, but it's so endlessly quotable. It's so fun. It's just, God, the whole movie, the music, it's one of my favorite revenge stories. And Tarantino's cameo as an Australian is great. It's such a great film.
Yeah. Yeah, all the characters are so well done. Especially because every single character in the movie is pretty much, wrapped in like, there's morally great characters for the most part. I mean, you do have Calvin Candy, who is pretty much the embodiment of evil, but Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Same with
it's
Mr. Steven.
yeah,
Mr. Steven is
Steven, yep.
also
Yeah,
the
they're
embodiment
both
of evil.
very, very evil people, but again, hugely quotable movie. We also have a video of Jamie Foxx talking about his first day on set, and it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my entire life.
He does a great Tarantino
Yeah,
impression. He really
uh,
does.
yeah. It's if you haven't seen it, look it up. But it's hilarious. It's just I knew I was gonna have this problem.
I knew it was gonna have this problem. Sam in the chat said you should talk about it. This top 10 is different than the ones on your water bottle. So my water bottle is my top 20. Um, and there most of the changes, my top 10 is pretty much still the same with a couple things changed around. My top 20 is where the water bottle is now wrong because a couple of things got bumped out for stuff like the Banshees of Inisherin and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But the top 10, all of the photos are on the water bottle.
that's fair.
Um, so let's it's your turn. Your
What are
number
we on?
6.
Number 6?
Yeah, I believe,
Um,
unless you didn't do 7.
my number 7 was Mad Max.
Okay.
So 6 is Hacksaw Ridge.
Another one I haven't seen.
Okay. It's based on a true story about a what's it called? Conscious objector or something like that. Basically, somebody that so it's about a field medic that doesn't pick up a firearm, which is it's a true story about his name is Desmond Doss, but basically his choice to not pick up arms but still be a medic on the battlefield in the Pacific during World War II. Um, Pretty much, I for the most part, I just think you need to go see it if you haven't yet. But it is one of the best like war films I've seen in a long time. Um, Andrew Garfield does a fantastic job as the lead character in this, and there is a scene in the movie that I bawl my eyes out every single time. You can't stop me.
I've seen the clip where he's kind of like arguing that he wants to serve his country, but he doesn't want to take a life.
Yeah.
I've seen that
So
scene
there's
before.
a couple different ones. I don't want to. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it. I was thinking I wouldn't, but there's essentially this part where after like this huge conflict up on this ridge, so many people are injured. They get a lot of guys down the cliffside, but Desmond stays up there, and this is all part of the true story of him crawling through the field the entire night. I can't remember the exact amount of people that he saved, but it was a lot. But he was so dedicated to his faith that he's crawling through. We just got another Prime subscription. Thank you so much to Trent for a Prime subscription.
Oh, thanks, Trent. That's fantastic.
But he's crawling through, and every single time, so he gets somebody to the cliffside and lowers him down with a rope, and then starts crawling back to go for more. And the entire time he's talking to himself, he's going, "Lord, just let me get one more." And he just crawls to the field every single time, and he saved. I think it was upwards of 20 people.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I need to see it. I like Andrew Garfield, and I know Hugo Weaving and Vince Vaughn are also in it, which
yeah,
intrigues me.
yep.
My number 6 is Midnight Cowboy.
Okay, that's one I have not seen.
Midnight Cowboy is very, very good. It is a great story of this friendship that blossoms in New York. I'm going to explain the plot to you, and it's going to sound weird. It's going to sound even weirder when I tell you that it came out in 1969 and won Best Picture.
Right.
So this cowboy from Texas moves to New York and to get a job, and the job that he wants to get is gigolo, and he wants old women to pay him to fuck them.
Oh,
Is like his what he wants to do because he's like, man, they need a male prostitute up there like me, a young buck, and all this stuff. And he meets Dustin Hoffman's character, Rico Rizzo, and he's known as Ratso. and they kind of form this friendship in New York, and it doesn't go as well as he like thinks. As soon as he gets there, he goes up to this old lady and he's like talking to her, and she's just like, "You ought to be ashamed of yourself." And like it's such a good film, and the very famous line that comes from that movie, endlessly quotable, one of the most
Yeah,
recognized movie
it's
quotes
the
is,
origin of like people. A lot of people that I've talked to don't even know where it originated from, but this was it.
yeah, the "I'm walking here" line, and it came to be because they didn't have enough. No studio wanted to back this. This was a dangerous film. There is gay people in the movie, which is very, very touchy for 1969.
Yeah,
There was a lot of stuff like there's a transgender character, which again, very, very touchy for 1969. And no studio wanted to fund it, so they didn't have a lot of money. So they had to film on the actual New York Strip without clearing the streets, and they're crossing the road, and this cab almost hits them. And Dustin Hoffman breaks character, smacks the front of the cab. He's like, I'm walking here. I'm walking here. Up yours, you fucking low life. And the cab driver drives away. And now that cab driver has probably seen that movie and seen himself getting cursed out by Dustin Hoffman and drive away.
yeah.
Yeah, it's so good.
He's
It
like,
almost hit him.
Where's my film credit?
Yeah. Um, it's just such a great movie. What is your? Are we on to 5?
Yes.
Okay, what is your number 5, Mr. Toast?
Um, you might be offended that it's this low. Pulp Fiction.
I am offended. That's my number 1.
Oh, you're switching around on me again.
What do you mean?
Your last time we talked, your number 1 was your number 2.
Oh, Goodfellas?
Oh no. Oh god, what's the name of the movie? It's got
Oh,
from my head.
oh, oh, the
Boogie
one you're
Nights.
thinking of is, yeah, that's on here. That's
Okay.
on here.
Okay. But yeah, Pulp Fiction. It's not much of a surprise because I'm pretty sure uh almost everybody and their mother's seen Pulp Fiction at this point. There's no way they haven't.
Yeah, it's such a good movie. Everything in that film is just it's really lightning in a bottle. I mean, the
Yeah.
performance he got out of John Travolta and Bruce Willis is like Bruce Willis took a major pay cut just to be in that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's
Um,
even crazier because this was only Tarantino's second movie.
yeah, it was his second film. He um he had this idea and it exploded. It made so much money. It put him instantly. He was one of the most recognizable directors in America after Pulp Fiction. Instantly after it came out, it was just something that no one had ever seen before. And I'm gonna quote, instead of like gushing over the movie, I'm gonna quote the Rewatchables podcast, which I really like. And they were talking about Pulp Fiction, and one of the guys on there was talking about when he was 14 and he used to go see movies with his dad all the time.
Yeah.
He went with his dad and he saw Pulp Fiction, and his dad was a film critic. Like he wrote reviews and everything like that, so he was into film from a young
Yeah.
age.
Yeah.
And the movie opened, and in the middle they have that thing where you hear the radio dial turn
Yep.
and the song switches.
Yeah.
And his dad had always told him like there are certain things that like have to work in a movie, certain things you can and can't do. And um the kid like looked at him, he's like, is that like how you're supposed to do that? I'm misquoting him very hard, but he
Yeah.
basically is like, is that, can you do that? And the dad looked down at him and said, you can now.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Because it's the use of music that you're just like, oh, this is a title screen, and then it turns into diegetic music in the car.
Yeah, it's so good. And
Yeah.
the way he tells the story from completely out of order in these three different sections is just, God, it's
Yeah.
so good.
It's out of order, but it still lines up to be an actual movie.
Since it's my number 1, I gotta ask you, what's your favorite segment?
Favorite segment? I'm really split between two in particular. So I don't know. It's either Butch's story with the watch, or it is the scene in the diner with Tim Roth's character, and I can't remember the girl's name at the moment, but when they're holding up
Patricia Arquette.
when they're holding up the diner at the end of the movie.
My favorite is probably the entire segment just focusing on John Travolta and Mia Wallace. I love when they go into Jackrabbit Slims and
Yeah.
it's like walking through a time machine and it's so happy. And then all of a sudden, just everything is moving 100 miles an hour when something happens. And if
Yeah.
you've seen the movie, you know what happens.
Yep.
And everything just goes and goes and goes and goes. And then you finally get like to breathe and you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then the next segment starts.
Yeah, it's wild. It's and it's so like it's odd that the movie shifts focus so much, but is still so coherent.
Yeah. No, I
Um,
completely agree.
yeah. And I actually want to talk about the one small mistake that you can see in the film.
What is it?
So for anybody that hasn't seen it, there are some slight spoilers, but so Samuel Jackson and John Travolta's characters are hitmen, and
Oh, I know what you're talking
when
about.
when they go into the house, the guy comes out with a revolver, shoots 6 rounds, they don't get hit. The scene before the guy comes out and shoots at him, the bullet holes are already in the wall behind them.
It's true.
Yep, just a little fun fact for you.
I have a theory on that.
Okay.
I think the guy was loaded with blanks,
Oh,
and that the holes in the wall were just holes in the wall from before.
okay.
Because there aren't 6 bullet holes in the wall. If you
Yeah, that's
count, there's
true.
only like 2.
Yeah,
So like that would be more believable as to why if he was firing blanks.
yeah.
I don't know.
The only question is, why would he be firing blanks? I mean, no, most people
Stupid.
don't just have blanks.
He looked like Jerry Seinfeld. I don't know. Maybe he
Maybe.
bought the wrong bullets.
That's fair enough.
People in the chat, if you've seen Pulp Fiction, let us know your favorite segment. That'd be dope. If you have a favorite story out of the 3. Trent says the scene in the diner is so good. Oh, I didn't know that about the fun fact. Yeah,
which diner are we talking about? Are we talking about Jackrabbit Slims or the diner from the beginning and end of the movie?
Yeah, the diner with Pumpkin and Honey Bunny, or the diner with well, that one isn't really a diner. Jackrabbit Slims is more like a restaurant, steakhouse kind
that's
of
true.
thing. You just ordered a $5 shake. You don't put bourbon in it or nothing? No. That's milk and ice cream. It's $5. What would that be adjusted for inflation?
Oh, I think it's like $13 or something. It's actually probably more now. The last time I looked at it, it's probably gone up.
Here, I'm gonna check. So that was 30 years ago, 1993, when that would have been $10.62. I think he has a right to be a little upset about the milkshake.
Yeah, because that's almost a meal price at like most restaurants.
Can we just talk about like the fucking like weird ways that they talk in there? Like when he's like asking them how they want their steak cooked, and he's like burnt to a crisp or bloody as hell, and he's like bloody as hell, and he's like, how do you want your milkshake, Peggy Sue? Martin and Lewis or Amos and Andy, which are 2 duos. One of them is 2 white comedians, the other one's 2 black comedians, and you're just like, what? It's so stupid.
Yeah.
But I love it. The last dinner scene is mine. Oh, when they're in the diner at the end. Yeah, I got you.
We also have Steve Buscemi's cameo as Buddy Holly at Jackrabbit Slims.
Yeah. I have a fun fact for you that you might not have known about it. Maybe. When they're in the coffee shop, there's the manager, and he's like, "We got a hero over here," and he goes, "I'm not a hero. I'm just a coffee shop." And he gets cut off by yelling.
Yeah.
In the credits, that guy is just credited as coffee shop.
That's great.
Because he doesn't get the word manager out.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's little details like that are so good.
Right.
So that was your number, what, 5?
Yeah.
That was my number 1. We've already talked about. I only have 2 left.
Oh God.
Because my third, second, and first you've already said.
Okay.
My number 5 is Taxi Driver.
Ooh, okay. That's my number 3.
Okay, there we go. Knocked one of yours off.
Yep.
See, a lot of people talk about how Goodfellas is Martin Scorsese's magnum opus.
Yeah.
and I have mixed feelings on that because I have Goodfellas above it on my list, but Taxi Driver is the embodiment of a character study
Yeah,
and just looking at a man and
because
just like
it
dissecting him.
has like the characters like coming up, like they're here and there, but for the most part, Taxi Driver is a movie where we just sit with one character for the majority of the film.
Yeah, and he's a very unreliable narrator as well because of everything he's got going on. And the movie is so dark,
Yeah,
but it kind of like you get that serenity from it from that saxophone and the music.
yep, I can hear it in
Um,
my head right now.
Fun fact about that: the guy that wrote it, Bernard Herrmann, that was the last thing he wrote before he died.
Oh wow, that's wild.
Yeah, he wrote it. He gave it to Scorsese. 2 days later, on Christmas Eve, he died.
Oh man.
It's the last thing he ever wrote.
Well, it's a
The
good thing
scene,
he knocked out of the park and didn't need any write ups after.
yeah, it was Bernard Herrmann did such a good. He had done a lot of film scores up till then as well. I'm gonna jump over to the chat. The Steiners. Oh, coffee. Taxi Driver is a movie I never saw. I really need to. It's very good. The scene with Marcellus Wallace and Butch is probably my favorite part, not just in the shot, but the whole part of them coming across each other. Okay, so you like the Gold Watch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love the whole part where like he gets in the car, he's like, I made it scot free, and then he's
you see them,
yeah, he's
they
walking
make eye
across the street.
contact.
Yep. Uh
Motherfucker. I love that.
yeah,
Just
it's a
hits the
great scene.
gas. Oh, it's awesome. But Taxi Driver is just so good, and the ending is the only part of Taxi Driver that I'm a little mixed on. I'm not gonna talk too much in detail about it, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of hit or miss with how Taxi Driver wraps up.
Yeah.
But it is such a great
Cuz
character study.
it just kind of goes back to normal. Nothing really changes.
Yeah, it's weird. It's odd, but hey, fun fact for you about real life implications of Taxi
Oh,
Driver.
we're going to bring that up.
Yeah, we can't talk about Taxi Driver without bringing
That's
it up.
fair. So this is going to lead into some stuff with Martin Scorsese specifically.
Oh, I wasn't even bringing that up, but I can. We got
Oh,
time. I
what
can
were
bring that up.
you? Okay, what were you bringing up first?
One of the people that tried to assassinate Ronald Reagan cited that he wanted to do it so Jodie Foster would fall in love with him, and Jodie Foster was Iris in the movie, the prostitute, the little girl.
Yeah,
He tried to kill Reagan because in the movie there's a scene where Travis is gunning for a politician,
yeah.
and he reflected, yeah, and he wanted Jodie. He thought if he did it, Jodie Foster would fall in love with him.
Hmm.
Jodie Foster is a lesbian. Um, just throwing that out there. Um, but the scene I could talk about, or not the scene, but the real life story. Basically, they're going to give Taxi Driver an NC-17 rating, which means that it wouldn't be able to play in normal theaters. It would
Yeah,
only be able to play in grindhouse cinemas or porno theaters. And the studio was like, told Scorsese, you can't release an NC-17 film. We put all this money into it. We need to get actual box office results from it. You need to cut shit out. And the story goes, it's a legend.
yeah.
Allegedly, I have to say that.
Yeah, allegedly, no confirmation
Yeah,
whatsoever.
no, Scorsese is not confirmed or denied. Um, he sat up all night with a revolver, and his plan was to go to Columbia Pictures and fucking blast every executive in that room and then kill himself because he had worked so long. This is like the first thing that he was very, very passionate
Yeah,
about. And it was like he kind of viewed it as they were hurting his baby, and he was drinking, and a bunch of people came and visited him all night. And right before the sun came up, he got this idea of what if I just turn the color saturation down in the final scene where it's very bloody, and that'll get me an R. And sure enough, he turned it down like 7% or something like that, and it got him an R rating.
yeah. What's
But
even
that's how the story goes.
yeah, it's crazy because you watch the entire movie and then in that last moment, not to spoil any parts of the ending, but as Mike already said, it is bloody. It gets to that part, you see the saturation change and all the blood looks like brown.
Yeah, it changes drastically.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's just that time period. You know, they're very clean, very like Midnight Cowboy. at the time, they did revert back and they fixed it to an R, is the only movie ever to be rated NC-17 to win Best Picture.
Oh wow, I actually
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah, it's the only one ever. And they reverted back later because they were like, "Are you fucking kidding me? NC-17 for this." But they did revert back and give it an R rating.
Yep.
How many do you have left?
2.
Okay, I'm gonna let you do. Go. Well, it's your turn anyway. Go ahead.
So this will be my number 4. Since we just discussed my number 3, we'll skip that one, and then I have my number 2 left.
Okay.
But my number 4 was Across the Spider-Verse. I've talked about it enough on this podcast, and I still want to avoid spoilers for anybody that hasn't had the chance to see it yet. So I'm just going to leave it at that, and then we'll go on to yours.
You go ahead with yours.
Okay. So my number 2 is Reservoir Dogs.
Okay, Reservoir Dogs didn't make the top 10. It was very close. It was very, very close.
The only reason that I put it so high is because it's okay. So first off, the fact that that was Tarantino's first movie and it's that good, just it's mind-blowing, and it sets up for him to have the absolutely phenomenal career that he's had as a writer director. But also it's such a simple story of, you know, who's the cop, you know, and that's all, like that's the whole story of like who is the cop. And like, of course we get to know, but you also get to see how every single character unravels trying to figure this out.
Yeah, it's a very good movie. It's in my top 20. It just doesn't. I need to do a rewatch of it, but the more I see it, I'm just kind of like, yeah, it's one of my favorites, but it's not like top 10 rewatchable good for me. Like it's very, very good,
Mm-hmm.
and I love the movie. I love the foreshadowing. I love a lot of the stuff with it, but it just doesn't crack that mold for me.
One of my favorite things about it is that like so many of the actors that showed up in Tarantino's first movie have shown up in so much of his other work.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. He kind of got like some of his greatest. A lot of people just love working with him because it's truly it's like watching a genius at play, and even just to see that from the first movie, the amount of people that like uh put their trust and faith in him is just insane.
Yeah. It's crazy because of how long, you know, he's been making movies. It's been what, 31 years?
Uh, it'll be
92?
31.
Yeah.
31. Reservoir Dogs came out in 92.
Yeah. But it's amazing seeing like how his career has gone, and knowing that okay, first he's doing his little mini series, which Mike and I both have the theory that it's going to be
Downey Law.
yep, Downey Law, which was the fictional TV show that Leonardo DiCaprio's character was on in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Which I would actually love to watch that, especially because the way that he filmed it in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's like it is 1-to-1 perfection of like recapturing how westerns were recorded back then.
I'm pretty sure it's been all but confirmed
Yeah.
that it is Bounty Law.
Yeah, and we have what's he doing? He has one movie left.
The movie critic
Yeah.
is his final film, and then he's retiring. He said he's gonna keep writing books, keep writing plays. He might do some more TV, but he said that um he is gonna do that. And there is only one confirmed cast for it, and it's not who you would think, because you'd think like right away like, oh, um it'd be Samuel Jackson, or the only confirmed one so far is Travolta.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
he said his last movie is gonna kind of be like an epilogue to his career
Right.
in a way. My number 4, or yeah, number 4, which this movie, oh my god, I don't know what to do with it. It keeps jumping in the top 5. It's some days it's number 1, so it's kind of good that I my third, second, and first were said
Yeah.
because this one just kind of jumps around. It's Paul Thomas Anderson's magnum opus, Boogie Nights.
Yep.
It is so good. Boogie Nights is such an excellent film. It's oh my god. It takes what good it to me, it takes the concepts that Goodfellas started with showcasing a character through several years in a way of life,
Yeah.
and it takes that and just absolutely amplifies it like to 100, and it's just oh, it's so good, and the music, it's got my favorite scene in any movie ever, the pool scene where Spill the
Yeah.
Wine is playing, and the girl jumps in, the camera follows her down into the pool. Boogie Nights is just so good. It's the only movie Mark Wahlberg's been in that's good except for The Departed. Um, it's got one of my favorite Burt Reynolds performances. It's just the cast is so stacked. Philip Seymour Hoffman, Don Cheadle. The whole cast is amazing, and the movie follows Dirk Diggler, an aspiring porn star in the 70s and 80s, as he kind of makes his way through this world, and you kind of get to see a lot of the dark side of the industry. It's oh, it's so good.
Yep. It's such a like it's such an interesting movie because it sets itself up, and like before you know it, like you're just watching all these years fly by, you know.
Yeah.
And you're seeing how all these characters are developing throughout the course of, like, you know, the porn industry changing essentially, as it's kind of what do you call it, like, I can't think of the word, how it kind of encapsulates a time period, you know.
Yeah, it really does. It takes this time period and it just showcases it to you in a way that I think it's one of the more respectful movies to sex work
Yeah.
for its time. It's just it's so good. There's like a quarrel happening in our chat.
Yeah.
Um, but it's such an excellent movie, and I think the more I watch it, the closer and closer it's going to get to number one.
Yeah.
And I love my favorite sequence in the movie is one last thing, long way down, where we've already seen all of our characters just beaten into the ground, and then they go to this house where oh god, what's his name? He played Dr. Octavius in Spider-Man.
uh
Alfred
Alfred
Molina.
Molina.
Yeah. Alfred Molina is there, and he like loses his mind, and there's this drug deal gone wrong, and Thomas Jane is there playing a character, and it's just God, that scene is done so well, and Mark Wahlberg does so much acting with just his face, where he's kind of just sitting there like taking everything in. He's like, "All right, we gotta go." Like
Yeah.
he gets that like last shot of adrenaline, and he's like, "We need to leave now."
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. So I have a slight this is a little improv from me, but I do want to just bring up a few highlights from some of the directors that we've mentioned in this listing.
Oh yeah.
So for Paul Thomas Anderson, Punch Drunk Love as one of Adam Sandler's best movies.
Yep, that's my second favorite Paul Thomas Anderson film. I
Yeah.
love Punch Drunk Love.
For Tarantino, I want to shout out Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Very good. Very good, yeah.
Yep.
That was in my top 10. I buffed it down a little bit.
Okay. Um, and Martin Scorsese, I want to do Wolf of Wall Street.
For Scorsese, I'm gonna do After Hours.
Yeah, I haven't had the chance to see that one yet.
After Hours is really good. It's a lot different than pretty much everything he's ever done. It's a black surreal comedy. It's very odd. We'll have to watch it for whenever we do our Scorsese retrospective. I think you would get a lot out of After Hours. It's a really funny movie. It's basically about this guy. He just wants to get home. He's a word processor. He talks with this girl named Marcy. He takes a cab to her apartment that night. He's like, "Ooh, I'm gonna go on a little date." He goes to pay the cab driver, and his $20 bill flies out the window. And from there, everything in the night just keeps going and going and going, and just keeps getting worse and worse for him. And he's just at one point, he's just like, "I just want to fucking go home." Like, I just want to go home. And he's trying to get home and he's trying to find a way home with no money in New York. I love, I love how Scorsese films New York. And that's probably the best time he's ever done it is in After Hours. It's such a good movie.
Hmm.
It's so funny and dark. It's really good.
Yeah. And then two shout outs for things totally irrelevant to any of the listings that I've made here.
Oh, okay.
uh, Edgar Wright, none of your movies made my top 10, but I love your work. Make more. And Jim Carrey, keep going.
Jim Carrey. If we're doing a shout out, I'll do Joel and Ethan Coen, the Coen brothers, for all of their work except for The Big Lebowski.
All right.
No, I'm kidding. I like The Big Lebowski, but not as much as I like
I don't think it should
Fargo
be
and
seen as
Burn After
I don't
Reading.
think it should be seen as their best movie.
No, they have like some really, really, really good movies. No Country for Old Men, especially,
Yeah.
is excellent. A great adaptation.
Yeah. The only thing I will say is
Like the dude.
I love Jeff Bridges. I love The Big Lebowski. I hate that it spawned dudism.
Yeah, dudism and dutyism, or is it dudism or dutyism? I thought it was dutyism.
It might be dutyism.
I hate that. It's
Yeah.
just unemployed men.
It's just unemployed
Yeah,
unemployed
it's
pothead.
yeah, it's just unemployed potheads. They don't want to get a job. I'm literally him. I'm the dude. I'm
Bro,
the dude from Big
you
Lebowski.
haven't paid
I'm
your
the dude.
taxes in like
Dude,
15 years.
he put that before I even finished my sentence. Like he had "I'm the dude" in right after I was like, "I'm the dude. I don't pay my taxes."
Yep.
That rug really tied the place together, man.
Yeah. It's hugely quotable, but it's a movie kind of about nothing.
Yeah, I usually it doesn't bother me, but there's like a weirdly like large amount of swearing in that movie for no reason.
Yeah. There's also
Like a
like
lot.
I love that the motivation for the story is just that they just want to go bowling. That's all they wanted.
That's like Chainsaw Man, the main character's motivation is I just want to touch some boobs.
Yep.
That's his whole character motivation.
Yep.
Me, bro.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, Joel and Ethan Coen. I got to give a shout out to them. I also want to give a shout out to Hideo Kojima for no reason.
Death Stranding 2 with Keanu Reeves.
Nico, let's go bowling. Yeah, Death Stranding 2. We're going to be doing a Death Stranding podcast soon. We've got another AOT episode coming up for you guys in the near future. It'll probably end up being just season 4 part 1. We have
Yeah.
like I think 7 episodes left. It'll be like 16 episodes we'll cover for season 4 part 1.
You know what would be a really fun podcast idea actually?
What?
I just trying to explain the entire Metal Gear Solid story to you.
Bro, that would be interesting. When you get to Rising Revengeance, I'll be able to tune in a little.
You'll
Like,
be like, "Oh, I know this," and then the entire time I'm just going off. I'm like, "Yeah, so pretty much there's this vampire. He's bisexual. Anyway."
dude, that would be a funny one.
Yep.
Oh my god! But yeah, we got some good ones for you. October's coming up, so our last September ones. I don't know if we're going to do a Breaking Bad one in September or not. If not, it'll probably get pushed to later in the year. Sorry, I hit hiccups.
Yep.
But I think we should. We're gonna do like 3 or 4 Halloween episodes, exclusive Halloween episodes, in October in honor of my favorite holiday. Um, and I think Death Stranding would count for one of those.
It's got horror themes. I like it.
It's pretty much horror
Yeah.
for a lot of it. It's
Yeah.
got a lot of horror elements
A lot of
to it.
emotional impact too. So,
Yeah. Both.
but yeah, I'm definitely interested to see that. I think for our Breaking Bad Better Call Saul podcast, we should actually just go to New Mexico, but that's just me.
Okay. Oh, we need a loan for our small business. Okay, what's your small business? It's a podcast. Okay, what do you need, like equipment, or we want to go to the pizza house and Los Pollos Hermanos. Like,
In the strip
get the
mall.
fuck out of here. Yeah, get the fuck out of here. Like, you shit. Get out of my office.
We'd also like to go into the meth lab.
Oh yeah, the underground. Well, you can't. You can't anymore.
Yeah,
They destroyed it.
they burn it down.
Yeah, they burn it down. All right. Do you want to do the outro or do you want me to do the outro?
I'll do it.
Go for it.
All right. If you're watching on YouTube, click the like button, leave a comment, tell us what you thought about the episode, and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on Spotify, remember to download. If you're here in the Twitch chat right now, we love you. You guys are appreciated, and we absolutely love all the support that you give us.
Yes, very much so. This podcast has been so much fun. I can't believe we're already 7 episodes in. You got an 8th one coming out, what, next Wednesday? Is that when our next episode is? Because it's Wednesday then Sunday, right? Or is it this Sunday?
I think it's next Sunday because
Oh, is it that far?
Because originally we were supposed to do Sunday this week and then
Wednesday next week.
and then it was supposed to be 10 days. So
Okay. Yeah, sorry our podcast schedule is so confusing.
yeah, it's getting a little out of hand right now. We're at the get
we
that
need to
sorted.
like sit down and figure that out. Oh, we're not too off kilter. We're not too off kilter. It is next Wednesday is our podcast.
Okay.
Not this not today. It's a week from today is
Okay.
season 4 part 1.
Cool. All right, so that's pretty much all we got. Again, just if you haven't already, join the Discord. I post the schedule on there every week now. I finally got a more dedicated thing for not just my streams but the podcast as well. They're both tied in there. And then if you haven't followed me on Twitter yet, I also post on there whenever going live. I also like to post some funny things on there. Not really. I don't really post on Twitter except for when I'm going live. But that's pretty much all we got for you. Again, we appreciate you guys being here, supporting, listening, downloading on Spotify, all of that stuff.
Yes. Eat your vegetables. Go watch Boogie Nights. Have a good night.
Take care, everybody.